guys, welcome to Stay at Home Wellness, where we talk about why wellness changes so much after becoming a stay-at-home mom and what to do about it. I'm Hannah Stewart from wellnesswithhannah.com, and today we're talking about how to change your eating habits without using tons of willpower. But first, if you like this video, please go ahead and like and subscribe and share with your favorite mom friend. So I have a crazy example, but hang with me. Let's say your 9-month-old started crawling, and every day he gets into the cleaning chemicals under your sink. And so every single day, I have to watch him or otherwise he's going to get into the cleaning chemicals. And you even go to a mom's group and you complain to your friends and you say, I have to watch my toddler every single day like a hawk, because every time I turn around, he is into the chemicals again. I tell him no, but whenever I leave the room or open the oven or anything, he just gets into the chemicals and I have to call poison control like twice a day. It's just horrible. And probably if you're at a mom's groups are really, really good at empathy. So you're probably going to get a lot of moms saying, oh yeah, that's really hard, sweetheart. I had to go through that too. But then there might be one mom in the group that's a little bit more of a problem solver. And they might say something like, so have you tried like moving the chemicals out of the way? And obviously this is kind of a crazy example, right? Because we do this for our toddlers, right? If there's a problem that happens again and again and again and again, we try to figure out how to shift the environment to make it so that you can accomplish your goals as a mom, whether that's keeping your child out of the Windex or whatever else, right? We try to shift the environment. But so often as moms, we don't do this at all, right? We say we rely totally on willpower when it comes to eating the foods that we want to eat and not eating the foods that we don't want to eat. And why do we do this? Are we crazy? Well, I think for a lot of moms, it's actually a really big change switching environments from work to home. So a lot of moms have worked outside the home prior to becoming a mom. And so a lot of moms are used to using willpower to avoid eating certain foods. And this does work for some people, but for a lot of moms, what that looked like is at the office, they would be offered a cookie and then they'd say no, and they'd go back to their desk and forget about it. But when you're a stay-at-home mom, your environment is the same 100% of the day. And so your environment has totally changed. And so for a lot of moms, that means that you are trying to use willpower all day long. And you can actually be very self-disciplined and have willpower for 99.9% of the day, but you spend 5 minutes breaking that willpower, 5 minutes in the kitchen, eating a tub of ice cream or something like that during your kid's nap. And suddenly you're saying, oh, I'm so undisciplined. And to some extent, I guess that's true, right? Because you could have just resisted that ice cream all the time. But I will say, as a mom that has done this, that has been one of those people that's, oh, the kids are in bed, okay, I'm going to have my snack and eat my ice cream and have multiple servings of ice cream and been in that position, I will say it is a lot easier to change your environment. And I do think there's some biblical aspect to this as well, right? Because the Bible talks about fleeing temptation, this or that. Not that it's wrong to eat sweets. I actually recommend doing it several times a week to avoid having a restrictive mentality. But it does really help to not have to have that on your mind all the time, or to not be exposed to that temptation all the time. So today I have a few tips for you in terms of how to shape your environment so that you can help it support your goals. So my first tip for you is to make it easy to eat the foods that you want to eat. So there are lots of foods as moms that you probably already know about that make you feel better, that give you the energy you want. Maybe you're someone that works out like I am and you want to eat higher protein foods to help maintain muscle mass. So there are several ways you can make it easy to eat the foods that you want to eat instead of the ones that you don't. So the first thing I would recommend is to buy several of the foods that you're wanting to eat more of and place them in prominent locations in your fridge. So this could mean something like, if you're trying to eat more protein, get some Greek yogurt, get some lunch meat, get whatever I do protein shakes sometimes. Get those, put them in a location where you can see them as soon as you open up the fridge. Because I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but sometimes you go to the fridge saying, what do you have to offer for me today? And then you open the door and you see whatever's there. And it's not even necessarily something you were craving, but it's easy. So you grab it, especially because you're a mom. So you want something fast, right? So set your environment up for success. Put something easy front and center in your fridge that you know you want to eat, that you know is good for you. Another way you could do this is to buy or prep or cut up veggies and fruits. So you could either buy them actually cut up already, or you could cut them up when you bring them home from the grocery store and just have them there for you. And then another really quick idea for shaping the environment in a way that you can support your goals is to set out something like a fruit bowl if you're wanting your kids to eat more fruits rather than having snacks lining the counter, right? Sometimes if you run out of cabinet space, it can actually be really easy to set out snacks on your counter that then your kids see them all the time. You see them all the time and you want to eat them. I actually had this happen to me where I would make dessert for a certain event every other week. And I would see that dessert on my counter after the event. And even though I wasn't hungry, even though it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, I would see the dessert and I would want to eat brownies or cookies suddenly because I could see it. So a big part is putting foods in your environment that you want to eat, making them visible, putting foods in your environment that you don't want to eat and making them invisible. My second tip is to make it hard to eat foods that you don't like. And we've already touched on this a little bit. But there are several ways you could do that. One of the ways you could do this is to throw away or give away foods that you don't want to eat regularly. So I will do this sometimes. Say we hosted an event and I served a dessert for it. Sometimes I'll just send the dessert home, especially if it's college students or people that any bachelor, basically, they will take all of that food off of your hands, no problem. And that's something I do all the time. I just say, oh, do you want to take this home? They think you're super nice. Your family could all enjoy that dessert, and then they go home with the dessert, no problem. Another way you could do this is to not store food on the counter in a visible place that you don't want to eat. So an example of this that is really common, I don't know if it's so common now, but at least in books, and I feel like when I go to my grandparents' house, it's very common to have something like a cookie or a candy jar. A lot of times people can use like shelving, things like that, and just have it all out visibly. And if you can avoid it, I would avoid that just because that's kind of like a constant cue for you to go ahead and eat that thing even if you weren't really hungry for it. And again, I don't have a problem with sweets. We eat them several times a week. But there is something about just seeing them all the time where it causes you to use extra energy to resist that temptation. So, and then the other thing you could do is to put it in a hard to reach spot. And if you've ever read Frog and Toad, they have a really funny story about needing willpower with cookies. And they end up putting them on top of the fridge in a box. And then finally they ended up feeding the cookies to the birds so that way they didn't eat them. So if you're a mom, maybe you get that reference. It's crazy when you're a mom, you use kids book references instead of movie references or something like that. But I hear that one all the time, and they talk about the moment when they had the most willpower is when they fed those cookies to the birds. And I think there's a little bit of grain of truth to that. So as much as you can, make it difficult to do those things that you don't want to do. Make it easy to do the things that you do want to do. This video is sponsored by my business, Wellness with Hannah, and I truly believe that wellness for moms changes drastically once you become a mom, and not enough people are talking about it. Moms are the furthest things from lazy, but so often we are characterized as lazy because we can't get the baby weight off, or we can't find a time to work out regularly, whatever it is for you. So if you feel like you're working harder than ever as a mom, but you're still struggling with the basics of wellness, you feel like you're drowning a little bit in how overwhelming it sounds to try to fit in a workout meal plan, eat the right foods, etc., then I'd love it if you consider doing a coaching call with me. I think for most moms, you already have the information you need in terms of fitness, meal planning, what you should be eating more of, but it's the developing the habits in a new environment that is so challenging for so many moms. So if you feel like that's you, if you feel like you need help, whether that's a one-time coaching call or whether it's something you want to set up more often, I'm flexible. I've been there. I totally understand that, but I'd love it if you'd consider just booking a call with me. So you can actually do that in the link below this video. Just go ahead, click on it. It'll send you to my calendar, and you can book a call whenever it's convenient for you. So I hope you go ahead and do that. Thank you, guys. My third tip is to make sure to plan a time to eat special foods with other people. And this may sound crazy because for a lot of people, they're just trying to avoid sugar at all costs, avoid oils at all costs. But I think as a Christian, first of all, God created different foods for us to enjoy, right? And I believe that he's even given things like chocolate or ice cream or things like that that provide a really social component to food. I think that's what a lot of modern advice on wellness is lacking, is that component of food is a social thing that we do together. In the Bible, there's actually a lot of examples of feasting together with other believers, or the Jewish customs were that way as well, where there would be feasting involved. And I think that's a component that's missing in our culture. And I actually don't like it when I see all this rhetoric around holidays where they say, oh, here's how you eat to a perfect 7 on the mindfulness scale, or make sure you don't overeat. And I think there are places and times when it is appropriate for Christians to enjoy good food. And I honestly, based on what I've seen in the Old Testament, I could be wrong. I'm not an expert, but I don't think they were all very, very concerned at those feasts about eating to whatever, a perfect level of fullness. But I think there are other times for Christians when fasting is also called for, which is also something not done in our culture. So the Bible really offers a perspective of gratitude and thankfulness when we're eating food. And I think it's perfectly appropriate to go out for ice cream with a friend. But I think we should try to move away from secretly eating 15 cookies when our kids are in bed, right? That could be gluttonous. That's probably crossed the line there, right? Move away from this isolated eating that isn't really full of gratitude and moving towards eating with other believers and enjoying that. So what I do is a lot of times our church has like a fellowship lunch. Maybe you have we have a family night. We always have a dessert on family night, but have certain times throughout your week where you'll be fellowshipping, eating with other believers. It also provides accountability because you wouldn't eat 12 brownies at fellowship lunch, right? It provides that accountability and structure, but it also allows you to enjoy these good foods that God has created with other people. So I think it's actually really important for you to include a time when you do eat desserts or things like that with other people, to allow both for that fellowship, because if you're the only one not eating at something, I really think that does impact the dynamic of that time together, but also to make sure that you don't feel deprived, because deprivation actually leads people to binge. Quite often, I've actually had this be true for me, is where when I was trying to avoid sugar at all costs, that would lead to binging later on, which is not helpful for anyone. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. If you like this video and you want more ideas for forming habits as a stay-at-home mom, this video is actually part of a series on wellness habits for stay-at-home moms. So keep watching. There will be a couple suggestions at the end. Click on those. Keep watching. And thank you so much for joining me at Stay at Home Wellness.